You are tuned to Kennett Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service designed to cooperate with our local community betterment program. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
Well, tonight finds us in the archives of the Daily Dunklin Democrat. And it really grieves me to see these papers as they actually just disintegrate. Some of them have been rebound and will be good for several more years, but some of them are going. Now, sometimes we come up to the Democrat. As you know, we've been working on the extension 412. They're making it 4-lane all the way. And so we decided we'd come up and look for any records they may have of the very beginning of the very first road when it was Highway 84, or maybe even it didn't have a number. But we thought we'd come up to the archives and look. We had read something that made us think probably the year that they began was 1918. So I found the 1918 Dunklin Democrat. I found the right one. So we're going to take it into the break room where there's a table mounted and a little bit better light. We'll take this into the break room and we'll look through it and see if we can find any record of when that road was first begun. I'd love to have a photograph, but there are very few photographs in these books. We open up 1918, and the first interesting thing to me was January 18th, 1918, and of course it says, here's an ad from Spence Hardware, 1918. When you have a darling, you should also have a darling stove if you wish to please her. Remember the name Darling. So you see the kind of ads that were here. Another interesting thing caught my eye here. Notice to the patrons of the Kennett Public School. Realizing steps should be taken to prevent the spread of smallpox to our public schools, here's the resolution adopted by the Board of Education. We require each pupil of our public schools to present a certificate from a physician on or before February 1st, 1918, showing that said pupil has been vaccinated. And if there's anyone who's not financially able to have their children vaccinated, the Board of Education would provide for that vaccination. I thought that interesting. Now remember, we're looking for items about the road that is to be built across here, so bear with us as we turn these pages, and if we see items of interest, we'll stop and read them. As I turned here a minute ago, I did find one thing. It says, were you ever salivated by calomel? Calomel. Were you ever salivated by calomel? Horrible. Now, calomel was mercury, pure and simple. It was just mercury. And it was mercury poisoning when you got too much. Calomel loses you a day. You know what calomel is. It's mercury, quicksilver. It's dangerous. It crashes into sour bile like dynamite. It cramps and sickens you and attacks your bones and should never be put in your system. It was a very common medicine, even on into the 30s. And when you feel bilious, sluggish, or constipated, or all knocked out and believe you need a dose of dangerous calomel, just remember, your druggist sells for a few cents a large bottle of Dobson's liver tone, which is entirely vegetable and not nearly as... People used to get salivated, and to be salivated meant you had mercury poisoning and your teeth would all loosen. I don't know what else it did to you, but it was terrible. On January 25th, 1918, the front page was an 8-legged pig Hogs are a common sight and pigs are not rare, but we saw one last Thursday that capped the climax of all pigdom. This is from the Caruthersville paper. It had one head, but 2 separate bodies and 8 perfectly developed legs. Item for the front page. February the 1st, 1918. Divorced and remarried, and see this word, chivaried by friends? Kids nowadays don't even know this word. What was a chivalry? You remember when you chivaried people? And it tells about H.A. Blair and Isabella were given an old-fashioned and hilarious chivalry Thursday evening about 7 o'clock. They had been divorced since last spring, and he spent the most of the time since their separation in the south part of the county, and she remained at home with her son and other children. And we don't know what caused the estrangement, but the fact remains the couple evidently found separate existence not at all to their liking. And so they, all the neighborhood got together, and the merriment began just as the family was sitting down to a rather late supper, and continued with the usual deafening din of a well-regulated chivalry. What you did was you got all your pie pans or spoons or cowbells or anything that would make noise, and you went to the house of this couple that was being chivalried, and you made all the you stood outside and made all the noise you possibly could. And in the crowd of visitors were 25 or more middle-aged people, as well as the customary youthful contingency. And friends and neighbors are glad to welcome the couple back to the ranks of wedded happiness. On the same page with the chivalry, you might be interested in this product that's been around a long time, Mazola. And this was the oil form, pure oil from American corn, so for deep frying. So Mazola's been around. It's one of those words that's been around forever. Of course, all throughout this paper, good young mules for sale. There weren't any tractors, of course, in 1918. He wants some good, fat mules. You'd be interested in the ads that were here. Aside from Mazola, Studebakers were a big thing. And the distributor for Dunklin County was L.H. Johnson. And the specifications, the prices started at $985. And it tells you all that it had. The highest one is $16.95. And on the other page, the old-timers will remember the ad for Lucky Strike. Lucky Strike cigarettes. I don't remember them after the war. On March 29th, 1918, look at that buggy. A guaranteed buggy for $65. Came from Spence Hardware, which would be the southwest corner of the square in Kennett. My, wouldn't you make a real splash going through the streets with wheels that big. As I said, mules and mares almost on every page being advertised. Skeleton of an Indian chief is discovered near Kennett. And he still had a silver medal, which was found among the bones of the skeleton, and it could tell with the clothing that was with it. It was an Indian that had been buried. Here was an important notice that I thought was very interesting. 1918, now you remember the war, it's still in the midst of a war. Should you be found with too much flour or sugar on hand, you're subject to a very heavy fine and imprisonment. The wise and patriotic thing to do is return any surplus at once. Uncle Sam is seeing to it that no one starves. So you couldn't hoard sugar even then. I remember World War II, that was a problem. We already see that the war occupies a great deal of the the articles here. And here's a young man who's on his way to France, and he was Cleburne Abernathy, 1918. May 10, 1918, there was a dastardly attempt to cut through the levee. Unknown parties were prevented by what appeared to be an act of Providence Tuesday night from successfully cutting the St. Francis River levee on the Missouri side and flooding thousands of acres of fine farmland with overflow waters. The plan was a wicked one, and every possible effort will be made to uncover those who perpetrated this. So you relieve the pressure on one side by cutting the levee on the other side. That was an old trick. It doesn't tell you if they found them or not. On May 24th, 1918, we ran into the first little article about the highway, and it's C.O. Raines, who lives near Hayti, spent a short time with us yesterday in the city on business. Mr. Raines is a member of the State Highway Board, and as such, and by nature and training, is a great booster for good roads. He's very anxious to see the Caruthersville-Kennett Highway opened up, and states he believes the work can be completed in 3 or 4 months. After the convict crew of workers can be obtained, which probably will not be before July. So in July, he anticipates getting convict labor to help put this road in, which we know as 84 West, 412 now. First inkling of the fact that it might be done, May 24th, 1918. June 14, 1918, the article is titled, Take Care of Baby. And Friday and Saturday are baby days in Kennett, and all babies between the age of 1 month and 6 years should be brought to the basement of the Presbyterian Church to be registered. And here's some of the things the mothers will be asked to do. If they've not already done it, they'll ask to bathe the baby. It's a well baby clinic, one of the very first things. And they'll teach the mothers to keep the baby clean and put them on a food prescribed by doctors and keep the baby away from flies, and just was a good thing for mothers. These things are instructive to the mothers of the county. We had a Studebaker a few pages back. Now then you see the competition. This is Dodge Brothers business car, and it has a half-ton capacity, and it's offered by the Riggs Motor Company. Riggs Motor Company. No price is listed. And interestingly enough, all throughout this paper, we began to see Bevo and year-round soft drink for the Blue Jackets, for the Navy Department is evidently really buying this beverage, and it's marketed by Anheuser-Busch, but it says it's a soft drink and it's served everywhere. Bevo. I don't know how long that lasted. As we said, these are war years, and you see the War Savings Committee paid the papers to put in, and it's Paste the Kaiser on June 28th, and what you do is you buy war savings stamps, and that's supposed to paste the Kaiser. And we go, Pershing's men are over there. And they don't go home after the first battle. They go after the Huns again, and they keep pasting the Kaiser. And every real American will prove his patriotism by agreeing to regularly buy these saving stamps. We've been looking through some 1918 Dunklin Democrats because we're interested in the road that goes here. We're trying to find when it began, and we have found only one article in 1918 about the possibility of convict labor in the roads. We'll keep looking.
You have been watching Time for Talk.